We are back in open session already. We had a lot to discuss in closed session, which is why we are a little bit late. We have no presentations, but we do have a Taking Positive Steps of Service Award presentation.
Ms. Fossbender is going to.
Absolutely. So I would like to honor Ms. Deb Volk for this. We would like to recognize Mrs. Deb Volk, our first grade teacher at the Lodi Primary School, for organizing the For Love of Reading program that she implemented this summer. Recognizing the need to address the potential summer reading loss that can happen without support, Deb designed this opportunity for our students. So the reading program is a free individualized summer reading program, and it's for students in early childhood through second grade, and it encourages them to build a love of reading and a routine of 20 minutes every night. So the program includes the kids coming and picking out books that she has in the library. She has a weekly checkout for the students, and they find books at their independent reading level. And then the idea is we're trying to have them read at least 100 minutes a week that they have. The intrinsic reward is obviously just building that love of reading, but we do know that sometimes there's that extrinsic carrot that they need, so there's little rewards or things that they can earn. So students who reach the goal of 1,000 minutes at the end of the summer turn in their calendars, and they get to be a VIP book pass. They'll get a free book there, as well as a special t-shirt to just celebrate their achievement. This opportunity is possible from the ESSER funds that we use to pay for the books that the kids have and for some of the different little rewards for the students. So it took a tremendous amount of time planning and putting it together, and having the students come in with their families, but it's just been an awesome thing. So Mrs. DeVolk will be getting this award. So.
Public input. Purpose of the public input agenda item is for citizens and staff of the School District of Lodi to provide comments on any agenda item or publicly address the Board of Education on items that pertain to school business. Portion of the meeting during which the comment of the public is invited shall be limited to 10 people unless extended by a vote of the board prior to the beginning of public input portion of the meeting. The amount of time allotted to each speaker will generally not exceed 3 minutes. If a speaker has questions for the board, they'll be duly noted, and responses will be provided in an appropriate manner, but the board cannot respond to individual questions or individual comments as part of the public input agenda item. As an additional reminder, the board cannot take action on any item that is brought forth during the public input session or on any item that was not posted on the meeting agenda. If you are providing comments, we would merely ask that you please come to the microphone and state your name and municipality of residence. However, no one has signed up for a public input, correct?
Correct.
Next, we have the consent agenda items. All items in this section will be adopted as a group unless a board member requests a specific item to be removed from consent agenda and addressed separately. Excuse me. We have the approval of the July 11th meeting minutes. We have payroll checks, account payable checks, credit card payments, and ACH payments under vouchers. 3 fundraiser requests. The FFA fruit sale, greenhouse plant sale, and the volleyball fundraiser. There are no fundraiser reports. We have 1 field trip request, the FFA officer retreat. No committee recommendations for approval. Under other, we have the request for Wednesday night activities and a request for student data. Under resignation and retirement, there are no retirements. There are resignations for the summer school teacher, for summer school education assistant, for for elementary school and OSC principal, for girls basketball coach, for middle school special education assistant, and a school nurse. Under co-curriculars, we have middle school cross-country coaches. There's a head coach and an assistant coach at 75% time. There are 2 high school assistant volleyball coaches, and then 1 middle school head volleyball coach. Under elementary school OSC PBIS coach, there are 2 of them. There's a new lifeguard under community program and crew. Under regular staff, we have a receptionist, administrative assistant to the director of curriculum and instruction, high school business education teacher, which will be tabled, 5th grade teacher, primary school physical education teacher, 8th grade social studies, elementary school OSC administrative assistant increase in hours, contract extension for the IT support specialist, the facility coordinator, and the aquatics manager, food service administrative assistant, high school LMC assistant, elementary OSC principal, high school special education assistant, and a middle school special education assistant. Under personnel other, we have request for leave without pay for 4 people. So I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, with tabling of the high school business education teacher and the approval of Michaela Dial as high school special education assistant, Yolanda Schroeder as middle school special education assistant, and the resignation of Jill Ziegler as school nurse. But I also want to pull the elementary OSC school principal for discussion, and the request for Wednesday night activities for discussion, and the request for student data to Midwest Scholastic for discussion.
I'll second.
So motion by myself and a second by Angie. Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0 with those 3 items pulled for discussion. So let's start with the elementary OSC principal.
Yeah, so thank you for pulling that. The reason we pulled it is our candidate is actually here, Mr. Eric Shinneman. Do you want to come up and sit up here, Eric?
This is your
Just front and center.
third interview.
So, as you know, Mr. Bassani left us, and so we posted the position, and again, we tried to be very robust in our process, but also try to shrink that timeline as much as possible. So we did first round interviews last, let me go back. I surveyed the staff, what they were looking for in their new principal, concerns they had, areas of growth for their building for both elementary school and OSC. Use that information to build a question base, and also asked who wanted to be on the interview committee and who they wanted to represent them. So we had a committee meet last Thursday. We interviewed 6 candidates. Eric was one of them, and we came out with 2 finalists. And then we put the finalists to work. They had to do an entry plan over the weekend and submit that to me this morning. When they came in today, they had to do a 40-minute writing exercise. They had an hour and 15-minute interview, and then got a building tour as well. And we had, like I said, 2 finalists, and Eric was the person who was chosen from there. So I offered Eric the position this afternoon, and he accepted. So as I said, if all things worked out perfectly, we would have it on the board agenda today. So Eric is here. Eric is a 17-year veteran in education. He's been at Sauk Prairie for 17 years, teaching physical education and health. The last 7 years, he's also had built into his schedule like a leadership team position, almost kind of think of dean and student, where he gets to work on student discipline, but also on building staff culture, building student culture, with the principal, doing some observation, some feedback to staff and things of that nature. So the committee unanimously today recommended him, and he is here. And he's looking at, he will start next Monday. I'm sure we'll be starting before that, but officially we'll start next Monday.
Thank you.
Yeah, Eric, anything you want to say?
No, just excited that this is an amazing district. It's what drew me to this district is the community, is the staff, and is the students and the leadership. And so I really appreciated the process. It helped me learn a lot about your community even more. And I'm excited and ready to learn and to lead. So yeah, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Excited
So
to
we'll
have
be
you. Thank
looking
you.
for a motion to approve.
Yeah.
Eric?
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna sit.
I will motion to approve Eric Shinneman for principal for OSC and elementary school.
Okay, second that.
Motion by Heather and a second by Terry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Welcome aboard, 7-0. And now you have to stay for the whole rest of the meeting.
You could go. You've had a long enough day. Yeah.
I am joking.
You enjoy it with your family.
Thank you.
Next, we'll talk about the student data request for Midwest, because that'll be super simple discussion, I think. In the past, getting a class ring used to be a big deal. In my personal opinion, it's not as big a deal anymore, and we don't give data out for students on other stuff that other people request for. There's like this tradition that we continue to give this data, these to
So
this
we do it
group?
for two reasons. We do class rings, which
Right.
some people do, but we also graduation, like graduation announcements and all that stuff we give.
So like cap and gown, they have to buy.
Cap and gown,
Their
if they buy it, or,
rings.
you know, some people buy it, some people borrow, but, all of those things for graduation is what Midwest Scholastic gets data
So
for.
it's like the invitations, the.
Yeah, all that stuff that.
But they just
so
class
they-
rings.
So they come and they meet,
That's probably what you're worried. Yeah, the class rings are them, yeah. They do the class rings, which is a little bit of a hard sell, I think.
Right.
You know, like, they kind of give the students the impression, oh, you gotta, you know, everybody gets a class ring, which,
They
Right.
kind of figure it out, though, they talk to friends.
And that's great, but the other thing is they contact all our students rather than if you need a cap and gown or you need I mean, there's a flyer, you go sign up, you go contact them, the reverse, right? Which is how everything else works. So we are literally giving them the data
so
to
they
go
can send it
contact
directly
our
to our
students.
families, yeah.
Right.
So we don't have to.
Advertise.
Right, no, that's the discussion I want to have
Have
with
we
all of
done it
you.
in the
right?
past?
Yeah,
We-
every
This
year.
is, this has been, this has been this way for as long as I've been.
Yeah. and longer
Different
than
company,
that.
we used to do Johnston's now.
Yeah, it used to be Justin's, that's what I was gonna say.
I'm guessing we do it, and they want it probably because students don't tell.
That's one
No,
of
I
the
know
reasons.
why we do it. I know why we've been doing it. I'm just saying, should we continue to, I want to have a discussion. Should we
Oh.
continue to do this? Because
It can just
this,
as easily be put in an IC blast.
right, and
texted
say, hey,
emailed
if
out
you
to
need this
parents.
stuff, go get it now, here it is. Or it comes from the principal, or it comes, it can be done in different ways, what I'm trying to say. So this and the Army recruiting are the only two that we give student data to now? Is that,
Students opt out.
right, they
So
can,
they
right.
can opt out of that.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But that's registration, so that's an
Yeah.
opportunity for them to opt
Yeah.
out. Otherwise, we have to provide that for federal law.
Yeah.
what do we base this on that we're allowed to give out this data?
It's just, we've always done it, that's, so.
We don't have any legal counsel of like,
No, it's in our policy, right? So anytime, we have a policy not to give out data, but we have been doing this, but the board has to approve it anytime we do it.
Right.
So I'm trying to think when I first started principal, there was a couple other places we gave it out to, and we pulled back on a couple of them. Columbia County Connects used to do some things, we don't do that with that anymore. But these two have been there, again, as long as I've been in the district.
Can we
Can I
get
ask Joe
input from the
question?
horse's mouth? Yes, that's where I was going next.
Actually, having high schoolers over the years, I think it's, as a parent, you're kind of appreciative of somebody else reaching out to you, to be honest, because you get so much from the school, and you have a tendency to not necessarily look at everything. So as a sophomore, even though the rings are not as popular by any means, I think it was very much appreciated from our family that we got something else from someone else. So we had the information we needed. They do come and meet with the sophomores by themselves, and then they come and meet with the juniors and give them all the information. They give them a packet of information that can be taken home. Does that get in the hands of every parent? No, not by any means. Could we come up with a different way where we would not have to give them out addresses? Sure, we could do that. I think we could accommodate that somehow. I don't think it would be as effective. So,
Do you think parents realize that it's coming from a different source than school? I mean, I guess I never even realized that it came from an outside source than school, because it just came to I guess I never looked at where it was coming from, to be honest with you.
What do parents get?
Emails, right?
yeah, they get emails.
Okay.
And again, they get the packet that's handed out at the first meeting.
And it's more than, isn't it like sweatshirts and t-shirts
Oh, yeah,
and
it's
stuff?
all
There's-
kinds
It's
of-
more than just class rings,
Right.
it's like,
That's a
No,
lot
of
of
course.
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
but,
I'm just curious how many people realize it comes separately from the company and not directly from the school. I
Yeah.
had never really.
I appreciate it because it's one less thing that the school has to worry
Yeah,
about, to
exactly.
be honest.
Oh, I get it.
And it makes it a little bit easier on us because we know that they're taking care of that very important part of a senior's
Mm-hmm.
life, and that is to get ready for graduation, and their family's life to get ready for graduation with all those
Right.
things.
Well, and the flip side of that is, because I never really paid attention to where it was coming from,
Yeah.
it didn't alert me
Yeah.
that an outside company had my.
And I never felt like there was a lot of pressure from that company to buy all kinds of extra things. So,
No, I would
No.
say in my career as a high school principal, very rarely do we have kids buy sweatshirts or anything else. They have them, but it's not like it's a lot of pressure, high-pressure sales job. They talk about what it is, and Mark and JC are the two that come in and are great and work well with our kids and with our
Well, again, not giving them this information wouldn't prevent them from coming in. They would still come in and give packets and stuff like that.
No, it would put that responsibility on the school.
Right. Yeah.
And the bottom line is we haven't had any issues with it.
No, we have not had any issues. I can attest to that also. I mean, so many places lose data and get breached, and that's the problem.
So they're getting addresses and names, addresses, and email addresses. Are they emailing?
Parental, because the parentals get the email.
I don't think I got any, and Patrick ended up having no graduation cap and gown. I have no idea why. Maybe I blocked him accidentally. I
And
think that Thomas had one he could borrow.
And usually, most of the year, we're providing in our bulletin every month, that information that all the families can access with links that they can go to, and
Right.
so we help them out too.
Right.
So could we just get that information, put it in, send it out as an IC message, or just send it out to senior families? We could do that.
I don't want the school to have to take on any more responsibilities. I mean, I appreciate the concern about yet another company, for-profit company having your information. I just don't want the school to have any more responsibility than they are right now. I think there's enough going on.
Yeah, if there's a data breach.
Yeah.
But did you say
it's
that
too
you,
late.
after it gets sent out to parents, you're including links already?
Yeah, we've been including links in our bulletins every month,
So you're kind of already doing it.
somewhat. Yep,
For parents to look.
right.
Every parent with a senior knows they're gonna graduate.
Yes.
They don't know what's involved, but they know they're gonna graduate.
Well, so like,
No, and I
if we.
And
if
one
they
right
get-
here says, didn't get a cap and gown, right?
Like,
So,
I don't know how that happened. Like, if they, so we're just talking about the physical address and email address to go to the parents, like the packets that go to the parent, or the junk mail that goes to the parents, basically.
there is no junk mail. This company has been responsible and not done that, so we have not gotten junk mail.
Well, it's part of it, it's in here, right? They're not giving it to anybody else,
Right.
right? It's not like they're using it and then selling that information.
They have been very responsible. Hopefully, they have infrastructure in place to protect that stuff. I don't know. I'm not saying we should not do this. I'm just saying I wanted to have a discussion.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
I think it's good to keep it on our radar, and I think we need to be very careful with giving out anything.
So are you making a motion?
I will make a motion to continue to allow Midwest Scholastic to get the information from the school.
Anyone want a second? Second. Motion by Angie and second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. And then we have the request for Wednesday night activities to discuss.
Yeah, I requested to pull this out, and my main reason for this was being a coach in recent years of spring sports. I understand the necessity of sometimes having to have a Wednesday night athletic event. But I also understand the importance of the commitment to church on Wednesday nights, and I think that's originally why we have the Wednesday night rule. And so my initial request was going to be to ask if we allow this, if some of the programs that the sports in their program guidelines, they get penalized if they don't show up to a certain practice or a game. And I wanted to see if we can make that exception if it's on a Wednesday night. So if the student athlete chooses to go to their prior commitment, which is their church class or church group or whatever, they wouldn't get penalized for not showing up to this Wednesday night activity. Does that make sense? Okay. And then I see that there's also other things on here that aren't related to athletics. And I just want to make sure that the exception to the rule doesn't become the rule getting obsolete. The more that we add to it, I want to make sure that we're holding fast to this tradition on Wednesday night because so many of our families in our community, it's important to them. I'm sorry, my back is to you. I'm forgetting your sorry. Okay. So I just wanted to add that in there, that piece to it, but, and I guess, Joe, you could speak to this too, do you think that that would be going to our coaches and saying, hey, we would like these kids not to have this consequence in?
I don't think that's ever been formally, whether it's by Sue, our athletic director, or me, or even Vince, that have said, hey, we have to make sure that, you know, we want to give kids a choice here, and we don't want to hold it against them if they're deciding to go to church or whatever. So formally, I don't think we have ever done that. We can send them that message and make it clear that, you know, Wednesday nights, according to policy, has to be reserved for that, with these exceptions that we've proposed. So it can be something that I can talk to Sue to make sure that as we get to the spring, and again, the spring is the time when it's the
Right.
biggest issue. Coach softball, you know
Right.
how that goes.
Right.
That we want to make sure it's clear to coaches that if a student decides that they'd like to go to church as opposed to go to an athletic event, that it can't be held against them.
Yeah.
We can definitely have that conversation.
Sure, that, I would feel comfortable voting for something like that as a board member.
Let me add another piece. It's not just church, right? So
It's family night.
it's family night,
Yes.
where there
Yep.
is no church,
Yep.
there is no anything.
Sure.
You're just home with your kids and you eat a meal, right? Because every other night, your kids aren't there, because they're doing other
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah, so I agree.
And I think it's super important for our families.
So just a little history too. So the events that are here have been, again, almost like the Midwest Scholastic. These are events that have been approved, with the exception of Powder Puff. They've all been on here forever. And most of them happen before that, like, parent orientation happens before school even starts. The other ones happen pretty late in May, so they're usually not impacting, those activities. Powder Puff football is a little different because that was a Wednesday night activity. It was not school sanctioned. It was just, that's what happened during homecoming week. There was Powder Puff football. Parents and students rented out this, they're not rented, sign out this field over here. Well, over the years when I was principal, fewer and fewer and fewer parents went, to the point that no parents went. And then it was Lord of the Rings.
It was out of control. It was definitely
Right,
out of
and so
control.
we were dealing with issues, like I would deal with an issue in April between two girls, and like, where did this start? Powder Puff. Like, constantly. So we were working on, we brought Powder Puff back in, because if you watch Powder Puff football, it was, in my high school career, I've called more ambulances for Powder Puff football than any other event, by far. Because kids,
Well, now it's
because
not
they
that-
play
it's not that way now.
because they play tackle football, girls play tackle football. And so, and we don't, and I tell them, like, when we tried to get it to change, we would talk about, I don't let my high school boys come out here and play tackle football with no equipment on. Why would I let the girls come out here and play tackle football, or anybody come out here without the proper equipment? Nope. So the year we kind of, Mr. Jelnick and I came out here and tried to like take some control of it, they quit the game after a quarter and went to Harmony Grove, and I got a whole bunch of complaints about that year. But now with COVID, and we were working with some kids, and then I transitioned here, and Mr. Jelnick does such a nicer job, was able to transition Powder Puff into a fundraiser event and brought it into the school, and the kids had it last year, and we're very proud of the money raised and how it ran. Yeah, so it is a great tradition that has changed something that was not a very nice event that caused issues in our school to a positive event in our school. So it was gonna happen on Wednesday night, whether we liked it or not. So we just were able to bring it in, and by bringing student voice in, make it into an event that we're proud of. So that got added. The other piece I would add is, like last year was a bad spring, right? It was cold and miserable. So we had more events on Wednesday nights. For athletics. If I look at though, but we used 1, 2, 3, we used 4 Wednesday nights last year for events in the spring, which is a lot. The year before that, we used 2, and that was May 19th and June 6th. Or June 2nd. So it was after, you know, pretty much school was out and most religious ed is done and things like that. So it's very rare that we try everything we can not to use those Wednesdays. The other piece that kicked Wednesdays in a little bit last year is we had some kids get hurt on our JV baseball team, and to have JV and JV2, we had to get kids back and forth a little bit, so then a couple games got scheduled on Wednesday just so we could play all those games.
Well,
But
and
we
then
try not to use Wednesdays.
The other side of the spectrum too, like senior class night, I'm really glad that's on a Wednesday with no sports.
Yeah, right.
Cause like, my oldest, when she did the, what is that, the Outstanding Impact Award.
Yeah.
we
She's a
were
soccer game.
rushing from soccer to get to that, and she's in her uniform all muddy, telling her speech, so that's kinda nice where you have that, but I like what you're saying though, is we don't want it to become the norm, because I do like those Wednesday nights, it's nice to breathe and,
Yeah,
have-
it's something we take very seriously again, and again, I have kids and, we try to, this list hasn't changed except for Powder Puff being on here. It hasn't changed for many years.
And the Wednesday night powder puff is like the only night we can do it because of athletic events. Homecoming week is very, very busy. So it makes sense to have it on.
but I also like the idea of kind of explaining to coaches and
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
saying, hey,
that's just the
don't
piece
hold
that-
that against them if they choose
That's a
to.
conversation.
And like Adam was saying, it doesn't have to be church, it can just be
No.
family.
We've
Yeah.
had that conversation in the past, it just probably needs to be reiterated again, because I've had that with athletic directors and coaches in the past, but it's been a while.
That was,
You wanna make, do you need to make a motion?
You have, we have.
do I need to add that piece to the motion, or is that
No,
just
they'll
already?
take care of it.
That's already, okay.
Is there a sample motion? I think so.
If you
Just
open the
make it-
memo, you can read the, right at the top.
Okay, I make a motion to approve
I
the
guess that.
request for 3 Wednesday evening meetings for Lodi High School and Wednesdays in April and May for athletic contests if needed, and then the other, okay.
A second?
Motion by Christine, a second by Angie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. We're on to the regular agenda now. COVID mitigation.
Yeah, so our medical advisory team met on August 4th, in between interviews, for the elementary principal position, to look at COVID-19 mitigation. The team recommended the district continue forward with nearly all the same mitigation that we had during summer school. So if you remember during summer school, you know, we tracked our cases, we provided COVID testing, we required testing of people with COVID symptoms. We recommended face covering, didn't require, but recommended when community transmission was high in Columbia County. We allowed face covering for those who want to wear them, because that's one of the doctors, they feel like, well, 4 years ago, would you allow face covering in school? No, we need to make sure that's clear, right, that people can do that if they want. Recommend that those who are close contacts wear a mask and get tested, but again, it's a recommendation. Provide information on classroom COVID cases, but not individually contact trace. So last year, we individually contact traced everybody. This summer, we just did, if there's a classroom case. And again, that allows people, you know, if I'm taking, you know, we don't know who all has immunocompromised people in their lives. You know, maybe I'm planning to go see grandma this weekend, but now I know there was a contact in my classroom. I may choose a different thing because I have that
But
information.
the school just informs people.
The school
They
just
don't-
sends a message, right, that says, there was somebody in so-and-so's classroom that had tested positive for COVID. They're not going through the individual who was a close contact, who was not.
Okay.
Continue to require, again, like the CDC requires, and we exclude and isolate from school for 5 days and allowed to return on day 6 if they wear a mask from day 6 to 10. If they don't want to wear a mask, they continue to isolate from home. The only new recommendation comes in this area with the addition of a third option. Those who do not wish to wear a mask during days 6 to 10 after COVID can go without a mask if they produce a negative antigen test after day 5. And doctors were very clear that that's a 50-50 between, you know, if you have a negative antigen test at that point or not. So not that people think, oh, I can get an antigen test and I'll definitely, absolutely get my mask off. That's 50. So that's really the only change from summer school. So the board really has a couple options. They can just recommend the medical advisory recommendations as presented. That's probably the easiest. They could just recommend we add that one piece, which is the allowing them to use the antigen test days 6 to 10 and a negative test. Or they could choose to do nothing and let the current recommendation stand, or they could choose not to follow any of the recommendations. So it's kind of up to.
Are these the only two people on the board?
They were the only two that attended that day. 2 other doctors were not available that day.
I'm gonna make a motion to accept the COVID-19 mitigation recommendations by the Medical Advisory Committee as presented.
Second.
Motion by Angie, second by Barb. Any further discussion?
Talk about it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. PPG, professional practice goals.
Yeah, so the board has several access to several documents related to personal professional practice goals that the administrative staff is recommending for the 2022-2023 school year. This information was presented at the Contract Review Committee in early July. This meeting, the committee asked to learn more about the social and emotional learning professional practice goal. So a second meeting was scheduled on July 25th, where Adria Schrader and Jason Marshall joined the committee, and the information they shared were there. The committee had a discussion about professional practice goals with the following result. The committee unanimously recommended that the full board approve the content of each professional practice goal. After reviewing the information, they saw the alignment to the strategic plan, how each of these professional practice goals could help move the district forward in these areas. They also recognized these professional practice goals were all continuations of professional practice goals the board approved last year for the 21-22 school year. The committee wanted the board to have a further discussion about the title of the social emotional learning professional practice goal. They're in full approval of the work that was being done in the plan, but they're concerned about the term social emotional learning has become too politicized in recent years. Therefore, the board's being asked to make a decision on approving the content of professional practice goals and the names of the professional practice plans. This can all be done in one motion if the name remains the same, or in two separate motions. The administration and the Contract Review Committee wanted to make it clear that if you change the name of the social emotional learning practice plan, professional practice plan, say that 15 times. If we change the name, the content remains the same, right? So we want to make sure that's very clear that what we're doing is staying the same. If you want to change the name, you change the name, but it's not changing the work that's being done by our educators in our district. So.
I was gonna say, when we had, as Vince noted, we had staff come in and talk about these, the morning meetings and the advisory, and they gave great presentations. I felt like we really understood quite well about what was happening, and we, talked at length about concerns about, the name, and but the bottom line is that I'm assuming you did too, Scott, for the part you were there for, felt really comfortable with what is happening. But that the term social and emotional learning sometimes it's misleading when you look online and find things that are just not reflecting what is happening in our school. It's super frustrating, but changing the name, I'm concerned about it being
Nurturing the whole student?
Yeah, I'm concerned that it is could be perceived as lack of transparency, like we're just changing the name.
What I'd like to say, Angie, is what I liked about this really long name is that it actually, I think, describes really well what
You mean
people are
nurturing
doing.
the whole?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is great. I do think that is a great name. I think it is, however, social and emotional learning is
the same
language
thing.
that has, it is embedded. Social and emotional learning is language that is embedded throughout many layers of what the district does, not
Right.
just this PPG. So, if it was just the PPG, I mean, that's one thing, but it's in curriculum. It's been something that the district has done for as long as I've been on the board. So then the question would be, does SEL, the name SEL, get changed everywhere else? I mean, I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's unfortunate that that term has been co-opted to mean something different.
So SEL, do we get a curriculum from, is there that program SEL? Or do we do our own thing, but we're calling it SEL?
So there's not a company called SEL.
Okay, so it's not
No.
we're just.
It is
It's like a way of doing things, but we don't
It's
take.
life skills, you're teaching
It's-
kids life skills.
Okay.
So the work for if we look at the professional practice goals, a lot of it was working last year on morning meeting. So So like, if you remember,
Yeah.
I did this like during the committee meeting too, like, remember at this corner,
Yeah.
Mr. Prasani standing there with Dawn,
Yeah.
Collins, and Kennedy? Or Ashley?
Ashley
Ashley
Mays.
Mays, sorry. Ashley Mays, talking about what morning meeting was and
Yeah.
how that worked. There's also if you look in your board docs, there's a video of what a morning meeting looks like in a classroom. I didn't make that public because it has kids in it, but I thought the board could see that. So that's what we worked on some last year with our PPG, with our K-5, our 6-12, we're working on their advisory time, and they would continue to work on putting more depth into that as we move forward into this year. And again, it's all about building relationships and making the school a safe and welcoming and friendly place, right? We're gonna talk about a safety plan next. The most important safety piece that we have in our school is our students, right? And them feeling comfortable and having relationships with kids and being willing to come and talk with us and making sure that we are supporting them. And it's one of the concerns our community brought up loud and clear when we did the strategic plan with that second pillar. So that's the work that's being done in that area.
But I can see where it would be, I mean, SEL, if you look, I was looking stuff up today, so if you go and look it up, and just being a mom looking it up, their whole circle, and as a parent, I would be concerned, and again, maybe Lodi isn't doing this, but family is on the third circle. So some SEL programs are teaching where you need to trust the classroom and the teachers before your family. I'm not saying Lodi's doing that, I'm not saying all programs, but there is. So if parents look up and they say, well, that's what SEL is teaching, and we say, we're teaching SEL, that's where I think there's gonna be a little bit of, we're maybe not doing that, I'm hoping we're not.
Right, so
But
that's the question, right? Do we push back against that? Because that's not what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
It says right in our mission, we're in partnership with our community, right?
Yeah.
We are not trying to take over for parents, that's not our role. Our role is to be a partner with our parents in raising, so, but as we always talk about, it takes a whole village to raise a family. That is what we're doing. The question is, do we push back against that idea of like, this is not what SEL is in Lodi, and that's a co-opted version of what SEL is? Because my concern is that, okay, that we change this name, what are we gonna be sitting here next year changing what name now? That we've changed to something else changed, and now it's become a political term, even though that's not what we're doing.
But can
But
we
I also
just think
understand
of
as a
our own
parent.
term and not do a political term? Or something that's gonna be, can we do our own thing?
SEL was not a political term,
No,
no.
it wasn't.
It became a political term.
In the last year.
Well, and where's the room for teaching, right? So like, where's the room for directing parents instead of doing a Google search to our website where all the curriculum is listed and you can look directly at what's being taught at each grade level in that
In Lodi.
category? Because I agree,
Yes,
I
but
think
people
we'll be
won't do that.
constantly coming back and changing all these terms that get politicized all the time, which I think then hurts our transparency, because to me, that looks like you're hiding something more than just taking the time to
Explain
and teach
I mean,
people.
But you can't tell me that Lodi thought of SEL and now it's a nationwide thing.
Well,
So
I think it's
that's-
like many terms within education, it is a, I mean, like phonics, I mean,
Human
there
growth
are-
and development, I mean, it's just a category of.
Yeah, and then it has more recently become politicized and, polarizing, and it's misleading because what we are doing hasn't changed, it is, I mean, it's changed and we're improving our programs, but, it is, I think it's kind of a whack-a-mole if you're trying to like figure out what terms are going to be controversial.
But I would agree with Heather, like, if you look you could look online, and there's some things about SEL, when you look online, right, Google will show you what you wanna see. If you wanna see stuff that's not nice about SEL, you can look it up and you'll find it. And it's co-opted, that term.
Because
There's
I would
no
almost
question
feel
about it.
more comfortable making up our own term of what we're doing. And if people want to, go to our website. Then there won't be a Google search on it necessarily, but they can go to our website and they will see everything that is being taught. And then you don't have to worry about the whole, saying, well, we are SEL, but we're not doing that. Okay, well, then you have to start picking out. I just feel like if we're not doing SEL entirely, then why are we calling it
But
that?
it's not a curriculum, it's not that
Yeah.
we're picking
It's
or
not a
choosing
curriculum.
things that we're doing, it's a umbrella. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I guess like, but I could do that with anything. I can Google why phonics is bad versus whole language, and I can, you know, I can find an argument for anything on the internet.
Well, I sit on the committee with Christy and with Angie, and when Christy brought up the concern, she did it right before I did. We were both in agreement, and that prompted the meeting that I was unable to attend, but I knew it was going to be pushed forward to the board. With regards to terms or catchphrases, such as, in this case, SEL, this is what we're dealing with right now. And I'll take on the nomenclature of other topics each time they come up. But right now, it's SEL. And I'm fully behind what you're doing, but I'm not behind calling it that. And I don't see a reason to invite the community to have an issue where there doesn't need to be an issue.
But it's even what DPI calls it. I mean, I'm right here on DPI's website, Welcome to Social and Emotional Learning.
For some people,
Wisconsin's SEL vision.
Scott, would you be in favor of then changing the name everywhere it appears throughout the district? Because it's pretty, you know, it's quite embedded in a lot of like our student services and so forth.
The context, but potentially, yes. But again, we're just talking about this one
Right,
thing
I'm
right
just kind of thinking like, this is what we're talking about is this particular PPG, but it is, you know, it's quite embedded in the student services and the curriculums of all, you know, at all grade levels, not just these morning meetings. And so forth.
Yeah, I would look at it all.
Is the wording in our standards too?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have to relook at that, but that's not what this vote's about. This vote is about this particular incident, as Scott says. And I agree, it's a term, right? You can decide what you want to do with it. My point in making sure it came to this board is I went out to talk about a referendum, and I was accused several times of not being transparent with people, and I'm transparent as possible. I want to make it very clear that if the board chooses to change the terminology, we're not changing what we're doing. We are doing the exact same thing we have been doing, and we will continue to do that. And that needs to be clear as well, but that's what, you know, that's when people start, that was my concern.
Hiding it.
Right, is that it makes it feel like, kind of feels like you're hiding something, right?
But I feel like we're not, because like, okay, let's say, today I went on Google, you look up SEL. I was impressed in some stuff I'm like, ugh. You go on our website and you look at all the SEL, and I liked everything that I saw. So, I almost feel like it's more like we are being more transparent. If we're not doing that whole thing that you can find on Google, but we're doing our own thing and making it a new name and saying, yeah, this is what we teach. If you have any questions, go to our website, look it all up. I think that would almost be more transparent than calling it something that we're not doing.
There will be a group though that will say, we're no longer doing SEL because we got pressured into not doing it. They won't see it that way. They won't equate the name change to that we're doing the same thing. They'll just say, we got rid of it because.
Well, that, but also, you know, people to say, oh, you didn't like that we were criticizing it, so you changed the name, but you're doing the exact same thing. I mean, that, I'm just gonna say, like, if anyone has a concern about what is being taught in advisory or morning meeting, your student's teacher, any of the administrators would be happy to walk you through what that is about. As a committee, we thought that this was really very important for the students when we did a deep dive into it. But that's kind of the bottom line is like, please go to your student's teacher or the administrator if you have questions about it versus, you know, going first online. But, yeah.
Well, to continue to move the conversation forward on this particular topic that we're tasked with dealing with tonight, I move to approve the following professional practice goals for the 2022-23 school year. Professional Learning Communities PPG, Nurturing the Whole Student PPG, Community Connection Business Partnership PPG, and Fostering Student Independence PPG.
I'll second.
A motion by Scott and a second by Christie. Further discussion?
I feel like the content of what we provide as a district is great content. I don't have a problem with our content when it was explained to me. What I have a problem with is that we do have a percentage, and I don't know exactly what it is, a percentage of our families who are opting their children out or exploring the idea of opting their children out because it is called SEL. And I think if this is important to us as a district to teach this content, then the name of it, I don't want to say should be a big deal or we should just be flippant, because Barbara, I understand your point is we don't want to go through every little thing that becomes a hot button issue and constantly be switching it. It's just the nature of the beast. I mean, times change and politics gets a hold of things and we have to reevaluate. Like, we constantly as a district have to reevaluate. So I am, for one, and in favor, especially of nurturing the whole student. It aligns with our pillar, and it speaks to what our content actually is, and if it makes our families feel comfortable, I'm for it. As far as the transparency thing, I mean, that's a communication issue. We're not doing the dangers of SEL that you find online. Our administrators have told us that. So if we're afraid of people coming to us saying, you're doing the exact same thing, you're just changing the name, we are, and we want our families to feel more comfortable with it. So I'm not trying to be sneaky here or pull a fast one on our community. I would never want to do that. It's just the content that was described to us doesn't line up to what the unfortunate now term of SEL is in our nation. That's why I'm a proponent of it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, go ahead.
No, that was it, I'm done.
I would hope that these concerned parents that are out there, that are seeking truth about what is going on, are listening to this whole conversation. Because anybody that's really concerned after this whole conversation will know that what you Googled, Heather, today is not what Lodi SEL aligns with, as many, many other school districts, it's not either. And they would go to the source, which in this case isn't Google, the source is your school district and your teachers. So that's my thought. And I mean,
Well, I think
I
it's-
am concerned that if you change it, more people who are more political about it will say you're not being transparent.
That's why I was really glad that we, when we talked about it, that this is coming to the full board, because I want.
Yeah, it's a good discussion.
It's a good discussion, and it brings out an issue that, the communication issue. You know, how do we communicate
yeah.
what we're doing when there are, you know, there's buzzwords and there's things in the zeitgeist that are, confusing and, not what we're doing, so. I guess the one thing is if we did decide to change this PPG, then I think we do need to look at where else SEL is in our, you know, our curriculum and as it relates to the DPI. It's very embedded, and again, it's not, none of it is the SEL that you would be frightened of on the internet. It is all relating to nurturing the whole child. And again, I agree that nurturing the whole child is nurturing the whole student is a much better term for what we are doing.
So to play devil's advocate a little further for Terry, if someone doesn't like SEL and they're thinking of moving their child out of our district because of SEL, and we change the name, that just seems weird. Sorry.
I don't think they're moving their kids out of the district
No,
because of it.
that's what you were.
No, I was saying in their schools, we've had kids in our schools, like in the elementary school, they opted out of the morning meeting time and they went and sat in the office. Their students did. They're still within our district, they're just not participating in that aspect of the classroom because of the
So just
terminology.
changing the name brings them back in, even if it doesn't change the practice?
I think for some parents it would, because it's a very scary term, and if it's still labeled as.
I know that some
I'm just
parents-
telling you what I'm
No, I
hearing
know,
community.
I'm not judging you.
And I think parents would look up SEL like I did and ask questions and feel like they weren't getting the whole like everything answered.
So-
So now, instead of getting that SEL in their head, they're gonna say, oh, nurturing the whole student, and then they'll ask us what it is, instead of having to just all of a sudden be on the defensive, like, why is SEL being taught, you know? Now I wouldn't think they'd come back and say, why is nurturing the whole student being taught? I mean, you know, that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Oh, I get it. I just wonder if they're gonna then expect that it's gonna be a different practice. Like if I'm not letting my child sit in morning meeting because it's called SEL, and then I change it to nurturing the whole child, but it's still the morning meeting.
Well, then they can
Okay
get
with
to the
them doing it?
specifics, so if they actually do have,
But why didn't they get to the specifics before pulling their
because
child
in
out?
their mind, they had that we were teaching SEL, like the whole basis.
So you would pull your kid out of something without even asking what it is and go through the process of?
Possibly, I don't know. I did not pull my kid out of it, but,
No, I'm not saying you did,
yeah,
I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm just trying to.
Someone wouldn't want to know more about it before pulling their child out?
Perhaps they did, I just know that children were pulled out of it last year.
I don't know, in my mind, I feel like we're being more transparent by doing this, but I can see where you guys are coming from too.
I'm concerned about a headline of Lodi Schools changes name but doesn't change curriculum. You know, that, like,
But then I also feel like we can come back and say, because we weren't teaching the full
We're
SEL.
changing it, the name
The
to
reason
reflect
it-
the
Curriculum,
actual
Heather, so there isn't a full
Well,
SEL.
it- yeah.
content.
Nothing
The
is
content
changing
reflects the
curriculum-wise
content.
from us.
yeah.
Correct, and that's why we are proposing to change the name, because of the stigma that comes with the terminology SEL.
It will be in papers. I mean, it'll be just disseminated tomorrow of Lodi changes name of SEL for whatever. It'll have a weird spin on it.
So the other weirder thing is nurturing the whole student. I love the name, nurturing the whole student. I just love that. I think it's
I
great.
think it's great.
But I don't want to change SEL because it's been co-opted by far right-wing groups. I'm sorry.
Can you put it in parentheses behind it?
That wasn't the motion.
Okay, can we take a vote?
We can, as long as we're done having discussion. I mean, the point of us being here is to have discussion. When that runs its course, then we'll take a vote. Anyone else have anything else to say about it? Roll call, Terry,
No.
Scott,
Yes.
Barb,
No.
Angie,
No.
Yes.
Yes.
and I say no. I didn't take a tally, so
4-3.
Failed, 4-3.
we're three, okay. So, someone else like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the professional practice goals for the 2022-23 school year as presented.
I second that.
Motion by Barb, second by Terry. Further discussion on this one? We can have a whole nother discussion.
It's more of a comment, but I just want people to realize it is not a curriculum. And that's where it got all off.
Well, I would want people to realize that if they're gonna, before you pull your kid from anything, you would wanna find out what it is first, in detail.
Well, and I think that we need to do a little introspection of how are we not communicating this in the right way, that people are getting misinformation? Like, how do we redirect them to the correct information? How do we get them
That's
to
why
our
I think-
website or to DPI instead of just doing
I
it?
just think the new name would do that. Because right away, SEL, they got it in their head already what it is. They have their own ideas, and it's too broad of a thing anymore. It has turned into that, unfortunately, and that's why I just feel if we change the name, and you're saying, oh, well, we're not changing anything, but, okay, we're not, but that's the reason that we are changing is because we're not completely SEL.
Yeah, but the optics of that are, in my personal opinion, are really bad.
Well, Adam, let me ask you this. What do you prefer? I mean, if you had your choice between the two,
I like
would
that.
you call it social emotional learning professional practice goal, or would you call it nurturing the whole student, PPG?
Nurturing the whole student, in my opinion, is way
So
better.
then why didn't we change?
Because
why
I
you
don't
vote to
like
change it to that? It's a better name for it. It's a better name for what
We're
is
doing
being
as a
taught and
district.
what we're doing. And whether you like it or not, SEL is a phrase that is upsetting to people in the district. And it's not what we're doing. It doesn't reflect what they're doing. It only makes it harder for them to do it, in my opinion.
Well, it does reflect what they're doing, because it is social and emotional learning. That is the concept of it.
Nurturing the whole student is more to the point of what they're doing, in my opinion.
Yes, if you look at the website and what you guys have listed, I feel everything you guys are doing is nurturing the whole student is a much better explanation than social and emotional learning. Because you're not covering all of that.
And could the two live together in a title so that we don't go back through everything that's printed and have to change everything? It is more descriptive to some people.
Well, if
And that would
people-
be a way of communicating, and that's what we're talking about here. We did the whole big thing on communication. And for how many years as a school nurse, we had to send a little letter out, is it okay for your student to hear about their periods or the adolescent changes? And you had to opt in or opt out. And, we've been doing the same thing for many years, nothing's changed. Maybe it's a time to, again, invite people in and explain to them better. Because my concern is that nobody should see anything anywhere. And I've had many discussions with people like this. And, well, that's what you're doing there. No, we're not. Have you found out what's going on in your school district, or you just take everything off of Google? And that's bad. I taught CNA classes for how many years? You can't just go get your medical stuff off of Google. I tell my children that. Maybe we have to re-educate parents and help them out and reach out to them about what we are doing, about something that's become a political hot button, and clear the air. Because changing a name now about something that we're not changing, to me, boy, as a person in the community or anywhere, many more red flags.
Maybe changing the name more accurately reflects what they're doing.
If you put the two things together, so it doesn't look like you just are pretending.
We're not pretending.
No, but it will
There's-
be
this-
looked at like
It
that.
will be.
But like what, let's say, okay, so it used to be home ec, and then it kind of turned into or what was,
Family consumer.
yeah, was that a bigger deal when we changed that? Was the curriculum changing that much, or is it more just like, you know what, this is a better title for it?
I think a lot of people had to ask what it was. A lot of people didn't know if it was the same class.
But it wasn't politicized.
See, people are
either.
asking what SEL is.
It's like, the inflammatory nature of it makes it really challenging, and a controversy.
I just think, again,
So-
where I'm stuck is this group of people that have the issue with it, calling it SEL, changing the name, is going to set them off thinking we've changed the,
Name but not the content.
no, that we've changed the content too, that we're no longer teaching what they're considering SEL. I just don't, and then I think when they realize we're still just doing the same thing, we changed the name, I just don't think it's gonna go over
So
well.
rather than top to the bottom, let's go bottom to top. So the people who actually have to do this in the trenches, right? They're the ones who have to use the terms. They're the ones who have to do this teaching. What if we send this back through committee? I know you don't want to hear that. They give their opinions on what they think is a better name for this thing. And then you come from the bottom back up to the top again, and we get their input, right? So teachers get their input. All of our people who do the social stuff have their input, and then administrators have their input, and then we get it back from there on a name change, rather than us making a name change. Because if it comes from them and they come up with some other name or something, then, because that's what they're teaching, then it makes sense that we use that name, right?
And they're the ones sending the notes out to parents saying, this is what we're doing,
Well, I think that also some thought has to be given to, SEL is embedded in the DPI website. It's embedded in the language of, education. It is a shorthand for not a curriculum, but for different programs to support the social and emotional needs of kids. So if we remove that terminology from here for good reason, what we do is not in a vacuum. So I don't think our discussion, I feel more comfortable with having a step back and thinking about it more broadly. Again, I am not opposed to the name change. I am concerned about the perception of lack of transparency by simply changing the name of this PPG. But I am not, I would be in favor of looking at it more broadly in the interest of communicating better to the families, as you discussed.
The only issue, or one of the issues I see with that is, we need our PPGs approved before the
Right
start of
now,
the school
yes.
year, right?
Okay.
So this is why they showed up at the July, beginning of the July.
This motion will be still voted on, so,
Okay.
and then.
Yeah, right, and that was the other point, is that there's still a motion on the table,
It would
right?
go
So,
back, yeah.
but that will be an issue, not that we can't take them back, but we have to have things in place to start our school year off. And professional goals in place,
Right.
And names for them, when we meet with staff in 2 weeks. And that's why it was in July, we brought it, so it would be approved at the July board meeting. We decided
Went to the
to
committee.
hold it off and push it back to this meeting, but that kind of puts you guys in a catch-22, because if it doesn't get approved at this board meeting, we can take that forward to our staff at the beginning of the school year, and staff's compensation is based on them doing PPGs.
Maybe as an aside note, which is totally different than what we're talking about right now, we need to have these things brought to us earlier, because LCAT was another issue where we were under the barrel. Maybe this stuff needs to be presented to the committee or to the board, not right when a decision needs to be made, so that we could do what Adam is suggesting, but a little bit more lead time.
Yeah, and I would say LCAT was that, PPGs have never really been an issue.
No,
We haven't
So,
had an issue.
these were approved, these exact PPGs last year were approved
Right,
in
but-
August, and I brought them a month earlier this time.
Right.
And the
Just
committee
because they
pushed it off.
haven't been in the past doesn't mean they won't be.
I agree, but that's why I brought them in July,
Right.
That'd be
and
plenty
the
of
committee
time, right?
pushed it back to August. Right, I can only anticipate so much that and I agree with you, Scott, if I know there's gonna be an issue, I try to get it to the board as quickly as possible. I did not see this becoming an issue for the board,
Well,
because it was approved last year, so that's my
SEL
fault.
is going to probably be an issue for the board now and moving forward.
So, when we take a vote on this, if it's a yes vote, if it ends up being an approved vote, are you comfortable taking us back through the process to see what the name turns out?
Yeah, I mean, we can walk back through that process, it's probably not gonna be.
It's not gonna happen tomorrow, no,
No.
No,
sure.
I think this is part of our this falls under our communications pillar. And maybe SEL is not the only example of this, but it's the most prominent example of it right now. And it is a matter of us communicating what we're doing to families without them, and giving them the most opportunities to understand what it is we're doing. And again, this invitation to please talk to your parent, or your students' teacher if you have questions about what is happening.
So we'll continue with this, but we can
Well,
pass,
let's take a vote, yeah.
take a vote for.
Like,
Just next time.
so can we
Heather
just,
wants a question, ask
just
the question of
ask
the administration.
kind of what the administration feels?
Sure,
Just to
certainly,
get their
yes.
input and just curious.
Adrian.
I know, we're all looking at you.
So, I mean, I think that the pillar 2 of our strategic plan is, the place where we see social emotional learning happening. Social emotional learning has been happening for a long time in our schools. We have a district level team, we have building level teams. Our social emotional learning has a couple of different areas. One of them is specific to this PPG, which is the morning meeting and advisory time. The vast majority of our educators are completing morning meeting and advisory time, so it's something that is happening in all of our school buildings and with most of our educators. Another piece of SEL is the curriculum that's being used at the different grade levels, and that's something that part of our strategic plan moving forward is something that we're going to be reviewing and making adjustments if needed along the way. So social emotional learning is something that I'm comfortable leading in the school district. I feel like, there are people that I have heard about that are questioning social emotional learning, and I think that that's good. I would invite those conversations. I would love to have those conversations with people. I haven't received many invitations to have that conversation. I can think of one that I've had this past school year for someone that had concerns around social and emotional learning, and I would say that that conversation went very well. I don't think anyone here has any problem talking about the skills that are being taught in advisory and in morning meeting, the skills that are being taught in other social emotional learning times like classroom guidance.
So you think changing the name would be beneficial or not?
I think that what we're doing is social emotional learning. Our social emotional learning lines up with the DPI standards around social emotional learning. So I think that, I mean, this is completely your decision, but I think that that social emotional learning is what makes sense to our educators. I think about the educators that were part of this PPG last year. I think that, you know, they might be kind of confused why it's having a new name. That's something, of course, that we can explain to them, and they will then understand. But, you know, social and emotional learning is something that our teachers have been working with for many, many years. And I mean, all of our building principals are, you know, a piece of our social emotional learning pillar as well. They oversee the implementation of that in the school buildings too. So I don't know if you want to hear from anyone else here as well, but.
Yeah, I would say that I would agree with Adria that the language that we speak, we say of social emotional learning. So it would be, you know, all of our documents would say that our teams are called that. You know, like she said, we base our everything on standards, which are driven by DPI. We use the CASEL 5 model. So it would be a change in vocabulary for sure. But again, like Adria said, that'd be totally up to the board of where you want to go with that. But that's the language that our teachers speak.
And just to take one step back to where these PPGs come from, right, is, so we as an administrative team get together and have an administrative retreat right after the school year gets out, so right around that June board meeting, and we sat together in this very room and went around trying to determine what, again, we are going to leverage for PPGs to help move our district forward. So that is really where those discussions came from. You know, in May, we weren't sure what we're gonna look at for PPGs until we sat down, looked at our district and building report scorecards, looked at our strategic plan, had a discussion about the year one, what do we see as our big rocks moving forward, and then kind of came back to these in mid-June moving forward. So that was something that we had a long discussion about getting to here. Because there was some discussions, should we continue what we've been doing, or should we do something different? And really the feeling was we've been making progress in these areas, on all of them. And we need to continue to dive deeper, that people could jump in if they haven't been in those, or they could dive deeper into each of those areas. So that's just kind of the background of how we come up with PPGs.
Well, obviously what's being taught, from what I could see on the website, I think is great and awesome. It's just that name, because I just think it makes parents nervous or makes them wonder more, like, wait, what's going on? Because again, like I've been saying, they just have that in their head of seeing that, and, you know, technology and good old Google just can throw people off,
Right.
so.
Well, it's one of the things we teach our kids, right, is making sure that they look at the internet, look at the sites, make sure that what they're reading is actually accurate.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've had people send me stuff too they'll send me things and then I can show them like how inaccurate things are
Yeah.
at times. But making sure that they are
But
doing the research
it would
and
be
touching base with
I
people
mean,
here.
you gotta know too, though, like what they're looking at, because it's such a broad thing, you could say, well, yeah, I mean, you can't really, some schools are teaching what you're finding on Google. Our school isn't. So it's not like you'd be like, oh, well, that information is wrong. It's like, well, no, some people are, but what Lodi is teaching is wrong. Or is not,
So
not wrong, but I'm saying
The
it's
other thing that I
different.
always think is being part of the school board, we get a chance to really educate ourselves, but also educate our people in the community. And obviously, people are talking to you, and that's good. And you will, they'll listen to you now when you're telling them about this whole discussion. And again, hopefully, they're gonna listen to the meeting.
Yeah.
But they will then, I think
But
we
I've
have
already
to
done,
help
I mean,
them.
I've done that too, just so you know,
Good.
like, people have come to me
Good.
and said that, and I'm saying, you guys, it's not what you're
Right.
seeing.
Yeah.
But if they never saw that SEL, I think there wouldn't be that, that's what I'm
Right.
trying
And
to
then
say.
there's gonna be a whole lot of other parents who have been around for a long time and have had kids in school and are not nervous about all different things, and they're going to wonder if you all of a sudden change this. They're gonna think, people are gonna go initially to, you're doing something different.
I just feel like the answer would be easier. If there's somebody that has been fine with SEL and comes back and says, why did you change that? Oh, because we weren't really teaching the whole SEL program. We were teaching.
Program.
What is it then? I've said curriculum, I've said contents, and I've said program. What am I supposed to say?
It's not any of those things.
Well, it's intertwined
It's a way
in our
of teaching
curriculum.
children to be able to nurture themselves. I mean, that's a really,
Here's
really
the
good.
Wisconsin DPI definition.
Okay.
Social and emotional learning is the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. We're following the DPI standards. It's right here on the DPI website. You Google DPI, Wisconsin DPI, social and emotional learning. It'll take you right to this page.
So we are following all of that, or we aren't? So that's, I mean, we
This is
can't
the
have it both
Wisconsin Castle
ways.
framework, so I'm assuming that's what we're following, correct?
But we're also,
These
so are we
standards.
following that whole thing where they're teaching that the classroom?
I don't know what that is, like, you know, like,
Is that on DPI?
No.
Can you read it again, Barb?
Sure. The Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction defines social and emotional learning, SEL, as the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions.
All of that is stuff we've been teaching long before there was
Right,
SEL.
Right, before there was even the term.
I don't know, I'm just saying that I think we're just giving people the wrong impression, but we're
Dr.
just
Carls.
repeating ourselves now, so.
I've been listening to all the great points that everyone has made so far, and I just appreciate the conversation around this topic, and I absolutely can appreciate and understand how social emotional learning is the language that's been used for years and years in education, and I believe reflects the learning targets that are posted on our district webpage for us. However, I can also see the other side with nurturing the whole student as a phrase, and one thing I just want to recognize with that phrase is that I don't think that's language that we just pulled out of thin air of, this is something that sounds good. I think we can look at the district strategic plan of something that we've gotten from the community, something that we've tried to anchor to for the past year, and that language comes directly from the strategic plan. So as you're weighing your consideration, I hope it just, that language, again, it's not just something that we just made up on the spot. That came from our community, so just something to consider.
If we were to change the name or decide to not call it SEL, but we do need to follow DPI's standards. So we'd still be following the SEL standards, but we would, like, not be, because we, like, you know what I mean, like,
We're still doing the same thing.
We're still doing
calling
the
it
same thing.
different name. And I'm gonna be super blunt, right? We're still doing the same thing. We're calling it a different name because it makes some people uncomfortable.
Well, it makes some people uncomfortable enough that they won't send their kids to the Lodi School District, even though they live in Lodi.
is that happening?
That is happening.
And they don't have SEL in other public schools where they might go?
Well, they may not go to a public school.
Okay.
Would it be helpful to do some of the professional development that we did with the strategic plan? And we went to each of the different groups, you know, and we had, and you got a chance to see a little bit of, when we're talking about morning meeting and all of that. I mean, would that be something that we could demonstrate at a board meeting or something like that? So when we're talking about these different ideas, and if you're talking about concerns have is like, run a morning meeting right here with you so that everyone be very clear to see, like, this is what this looks like when we're talking about a morning meeting.
I don't think those of us that are opposed to the terminology or naming it at SEL have a problem with what's actually being done. So I don't know that we need to go through what you're describing, because it's not a problem with that. It's not a concern with that. It's just that term, it can be very polarizing. And I personally don't see a reason that we have to call the PPG that when we have another name that we can use that isn't polarizing. That's where I'm coming from on it.
The only thing with what Amy said is then again, the people who watch the board meetings, and hopefully these people who have concerns are watching the board meetings, because we hear from them, that they would then be able to see in action what was going on, which is not a bad thing. I mean, that's part of our communication thing.
Right, so that's, and I would agree with what Amy's talking about. It's not, right now, we're not talking about educating the board, you're talking about educating the community.
The public is our
Right,
issue,
so
is people.
If we do run the board through a morning meeting, right, people can see what a morning meeting's like, versus,
But that doesn't change that it's SEL.
no, but it gives them an idea what SEL really is.
What it really is.
What it means in Lodi. If we've told them and
I
again,
mean,
they come and ask
unfortunately, I think you
questions.
can educate people till you're blue in the face, and for some people, maybe they won't even wanna,
Engage.
the term enough is polarizing enough where they don't want to even hear the education part.
But we're talking about a PPG that applies to educators, not to parents. Like, and if this is the terminology that the educators are using, they're all using SEL anyways, why would we change it for them? This has nothing to do with the parents. We're changing a name for a PPG for educators that are still using SEL. It's still, they're gonna still call it that. We're not changing the curriculum. This really doesn't apply to parents.
Or students.
It applies to our staff and what we're calling their PPG. This is the term that they use.
Yeah. I mean, I think of it as kind of an industry-specific term in that way, like it is, and, you go to conferences, there'll be the SEL track. It is a standard term, it'd be like,
Well, I mean, it's the term that they use for the PPG right now because that's what it's called. If it's called something else, then they start using a different term.
I'm just meaning like other schools, conferences, educational materials, when people are getting things in their email inboxes, it's all gonna be SEL, because it is a standard term within the educational community.
So if we were gonna change something, we would change the other parts of it, like where it's on the website and it says SEL.
The parts that actually affect
That
the parents.
parents would get involved in and
Right.
see.
Well, I still like the idea of having it on a website about what you're doing, nurturing the whole student/SEL. Start educating people to put it together, and like you said, not change it on the PPG, which is the teachers. I mean, they could change ankle fracture tomorrow in a book, but when you'd go looking for it, you'd still go looking for ankle fracture.
Well,
Until you adopted
just
the
think
new
it's-
term and then started
But you
using
have
that
to
new
let-
terminology.
that's a
That
huge
Wouldn't happen
thing.
overnight, I get that.
No.
I think for this PPG, that only really applies to educators. It's the same as, do you call it literacy time or do you call it reading time? Like, I don't think this has this much of a bearing on what we call it, because it's only really applicable to the staff.
This is not the place to change the stuff.
Right.
But it's out there. It may only be applicable to staff, but it's out there. It's out there in the community, and I don't think anybody can deny that.
No, it's the impetus for the other change, for sure.
well, maybe in our community, since they are listening to us talk about it and are real concerns about them, wanting them to know, what is happening here, that maybe our community will be more educated than the average community.
Fortunately, not a lot of people watch these meetings.
They're gonna watch this one.
Any further discussion? Ready to vote? Terry,
Could you read the motion again?
Sure. Move to approve professional practice goals for 2022-2023 school year as presented.
Yes.
Scott?
No.
Barb?
Yes.
Adam? Yes. Angie?
Yes.
Christie?
No.
No. Was that
4-3.
4-3?
Can we take a 5-minute break?
We can definitely, so it was 4-3, it fails, is that what you're saying?
No, 4-3.
No,
Passed,
passed,
okay.
4-3.
So before we move on from this one thing, whoever came up with fostering student independence professional practice goal, and we're sure it was a team effort, genius. Thank you, okay? That was brilliant. So we couldn't have a better PPG than that one. And now we will take a
Okay,
5-minute
I'm sorry
recess.
to
That's
prolong this
fine.
meeting.
Now it's bathroom time.
We'll reconvene in 5 minutes.
Okay, quickly.
Just a reminder, the microphones are on. Grab a small talk.
Yeah, small talk.
I thought something was going on with your family.
IT, now we're back. Board is reconvened. Next agenda item is 803, Emergency Preparedness Procedural Manual.
Yeah, so the district has been engaged in reviewing the update of our emergency preparedness procedure manual. As part of that review, the district has worked with the Lodi Police Department, not only to review the documents, but also conduct an on-site safety inspection of facilities over the next few months. As part of Act 143, the board has to approve the district's procedure manual every 3 years. This is only a small part of the work we do around student and staff safety throughout the year. As the board is aware, each November, the building principals will submit a safety drill. Information needs to be approved with the board and uploaded to the Department of Justice. In addition, there's ongoing safety training with our students and staff throughout the year. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about the emergency manual. So this is in every staff member's building, or every classroom, and every classroom.
Hanging on the wall
Hanging
by
on
the
wall.
door.
And then this is a little more in-depth, one that the administrators have as well, and our, like, Lodi Police have that, Lodi Fire have that. So we're just updating that and approving that now. These are the only things that this motion is approving, these things right here.
So, yeah, sorry, can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think it needs, community needs to understand that the beauty of these booklets that are hanging right by the door is when an emergency pops up, you go right to that emergency, pull that tab, right? And it tells you exactly what you need to do. If you leave the room with students, you take this with you.
Yeah.
Right, so you know what's going on. These things are phenomenal when we finally got these. So I just wanted to make that plug,
But we're
'cause
updating it, is that the?
Yeah, so we're just updating some of the, like, the contact information of people. So for example, elementary school principal right now says to be determined, and will now be updated with Mr. Shinneman and his contact information as well. The other thing that's nice about these is if you're in a room,
oh,
they have an
nice,
all clear sign,
nice.
or the back side is they have a need help sign. So you can post them, like if you're
No,
barricaded in a room or things of that nature as well. So just something we, again, we review consistently. The board has to, as I said, the safety grant that was done in Act 143, we have to upload, this has to be reviewed by the board and approved by the board every 3 years.
And each teacher has an emergency kit in their room
Yes.
that is put
Yeah, so this is
together
only
for
a
them.
small piece of what we do.
Yeah, it's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I read through this, I mean, I've read through it in the past, and I hope all the board members read through it, and we just comment on the responsibility that is on the teachers and the administrators and the staff, and to read through, you know, obviously you need protocols so that the first time an emergency happens, it's not the first time you think about it, but, the responsibility to not only educate our children, but to keep them safe and to keep staff members safe. Just want to take a moment to call that out a little bit, like, there's a lot.
And there's a core team in every building, and they are teachers and staff that volunteer to be first responders.
Yeah.
And that means training every year, and they've reacted to many things. So, and this was not an easy thing to pull together. This was not, well,
This is quite a.
wasn't there.
This is, part of quite a large plan to respond to emergencies, to keep students and staff safe, and it's kind of tough reading when you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough conversation or tough thoughts to have. So sometimes when, again, my role as I've been a former high school principal, now as district administrator, like we'll have sometimes like a kid will prop a door open and then they can't understand why that's such a big deal. Or
It's a huge
they do
deal.
this and they're like, they understand why it's such a big, and at that point, for them, it wasn't. But that's how some of these things happen, right? So we just have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our students safe. Now, again, all this doesn't matter unless we're doing the other stuff we just got done spending an hour talking about, right? Because we can harden it all we want. It's not gonna make a difference, right? If we're not building relationships with kids and making sure that they know what they're supposed to do and how they're connecting with each other and letting us know when there's issues. So,
I move to approve the emergency preparedness procedure manual as presented.
And I seconded it.
Motion by Barb and a second by Terry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we're on board communication discussion.
yeah, so one of the areas that we highlighted during our recent communication plan was working on engaging both internal and external stakeholders. by providing them with more information. One of the strategies suggested is try to consistently communicate school board meeting highlights and decisions. So the administration has put together a sample document that what this could look like from the July Board of Education meeting, using that. The title of this document in July was a 2022 Board of Education meeting summary, keywords at key times. The administration looking for feedback on the possible communication tool. So again, prior to administration moving forward with this, I just wanted to make sure we got feedback from the board on the format, the information provided, and some thoughts that I wanted the board to consider before, as they think about this. One, information, if we, did this like the week after a board meeting, the information will be provided is based on draft minutes of the board, not approved minutes of the board, right? So one of the things the board does every month is approve the minutes to make sure everything's accurate. So if we put this out early, it would be based on draft minutes. And is the board comfortable with that? Is it something you feel comfortable having the district administrator put together, or the district office putting together and send it out? Or is it something you want to have, the board president approve before it gets sent out? Or, because again, having the whole board do it doesn't make sense, right, if you want to get out in a timely fashion. Or is it something that a board member should put together versus the district office, right? Because then board members take turns, or should a board member present on this? I've seen some districts where they have a board do a video after the board meeting and talk about what they talked about last, and everybody taking turns. Like, this is how the discussion went, these are the topics we talked about.
I love what you did. Can you tell me how long it took you to do this?
I don't know, a long time.
Well, that's what I mean. We don't want you.
It takes time.
That's just it.
So, obviously putting it together the first time was something that, I'd never done it before. So it was like, I did it, and then it was like, oh, I could add this piece, I could add that piece. So really one of the conversations I think we had during our communications audit was something of this nature. Like, why don't we have something where it's quick, we can kind of show, like, there's links, if people want to dig in deeper, they can dig in deeper. And then it went back to, well, what about, it's on video, should we have a link to, like, where does it show up on video? So you can actually watch it. And then one of the things we talked with Maureen and Tyler, I'm talking with them, is like, can we bookmark those sections instead of having it just be, you have to go all the way through that. So it took me part of a Saturday morning to put it together, but it's just, but it's something that, as I said, it's part of our strategic plan, it's part of our report card. It's gonna be on a report card that we need to do these things.
I love it. I think that in this format, it's really great. It is concise-ish, there's links to go to the various things. I don't think that having a video of someone explaining what happened at the board meeting is a good idea, because it's easy to sort of wander off when and I wouldn't do that. I think that our discussion at the meeting and its mark is right there. Right.
My goal in doing this was not to like play sides. Like, it was to say, this is what was discussed.
Here's the facts.
This is the decision.
Well, it's bullet points, which
Right.
I
It wasn't
totally
like
appreciate.
Heather said this, and
Right.
Angie said this.
No.
And,
No, I think Angie's saying if one of us did a
No,
recap.
I know, but it's
Yeah.
easy to do that. So that's one of the
No.
reasons that also wouldn't be bad to have, it go through the board president to kind of have a second person back look at it and go, is it objective, right? Because I have opinions on this stuff, just like you guys do. Sometimes the board supports what my opinion is, sometimes they don't. But again, I'm trying to make it as concise as possible and as neutral, I guess, as possible, that this is, because that was the idea, like, let's communicate out, because board docs is not the easiest thing to look at
Right.
So,
and dig through.
did you put this together after the minutes were done? The draft minutes?
Yeah, well, the draft minutes are typically done the day after the
Right,
board meeting.
but I'm
Yes.
saying, did you pull draft minutes and stick them right in here?
No.
Okay, so you rewrote all this?
Well, I put together some notes before the board meeting, right? So when I present this stuff in the first place,
You're pulling
You
from
have
those
your-
notes?
I'm pulling from my own notes
Yeah.
typically.
And where would this go so that people could read?
Well, that was the other question. Do we put that on the
Right.
website? Do you allow somebody to subscribe? Right, that's another thing we talked about, like, do you allow people to subscribe to, that this gets, so like it's an RSS feed, so they can sign up, and when these are done, they go out.
Read them on their phone?
I do like subscription things. I find I read them more.
Yeah,
when
well,
they're
instead
just
of going and
automatically
looking,
sent
right,
to
it
me.
pushes it to you versus you having to go find it.
Yeah, I think this is a great format. I also don't see a need to do a video. I mean, you can over communicate too, and I think like if we did this and a video, like it's just too much.
Well, if I want to read this on the go, I'm reading it on my phone. I'm not, you know.
How would this be different from the minutes? This is literally the minutes.
Because it would be done,
In bullet points.
well,
And it's got the.
it has the links in it, right? The minutes don't have the
I'm
links.
saying this is better than our minutes.
Yeah.
Not that our minutes are bad.
Well, minutes.
Sorry, not that our minutes are bad, but,
Our minutes are phenomenal.
They are.
Yeah, best ever, the best.
but it has all the agenda items, it has links to the actual video, and it has the content with all the stuff. Could this just become our minutes? That's what I'm trying to get.
It doesn't have like the specific motions in here and
Right.
the approval, like, it would, you know, it would, if it was a 4-3, I might put that in there.
Probably more
but-
user-friendly than the
Yeah,
minutes.
right.
Like the
Oh,
minutes
it's
is
definitely
nice.
more user-friendly than
Yeah.
the minutes, that's what I'm
It's
saying.
just
Could
like
we use
you're
this as the minutes?
trying to save labor, like are you doing things, the minutes and this,
Yeah.
and there's overlap in between.
Could we just do one?
But there are some things that have to be in
Yep.
minutes, procedural minutes by state law.
Yeah.
I think this is great.
And we don't want you to take every Saturday morning to do that.
Do this.
Well, that's why I was asking if we're gonna do
No,
it.
I know you're.
Oh, Jesus.
If you give us a class on how to do it, then we can.
No, it just, it was, again, that's when I did it, because I came in and I wanted to do it. Like, it was something we talked about doing and. so
And it
put together.
definitely is part of our communication thing, and especially
yeah.
that deal where they could just subscribe to it. Because not everybody, like Scott says, is gonna sit and watch a meeting, and some of them will go back and read things, but some of them won't. And this really clarifies, you know, because I was saying the other day, I don't always think it's easy for everybody to hear what people are saying. And so this would be a way of, you know, it clarifies.
Some of this can be front-loaded though, like created before the meeting. And
The
did you go
template.
back and watch the video to mark all these times? Cause like Tyler could be
Unfortunately.
marking those times right
Yeah,
on the
it doesn't
agenda as
take
we
that
go.
much.
Can we hold up a piece of paper that's like agenda, no, I'm serious, like
put more
agenda,
mark.
agenda item
Yeah.
8, you know, and then agenda, and then.
Yeah.
It's-
when you
But he
scroll
could
through
write
the
down
video.
the time,
There's too many
right?
people
Like that
talking.
started with the help the bookmarks.
So excited. We love
It would be something we would work with Tyler and Maureen on if there's something we could bookmark it versus going back through.
So we're making more work for all of you.
But again, the idea is that we're gonna communicate, right?
Yeah.
We are,
But
and
you
we've
were
talked
saying
about,
on here if-
as Christie would argue, we should have a
board members
communication specialist who's doing this for
Right.
us.
That's what we
Yes,
did.
I would.
Not
We
only
don't have
Christie
to.
would argue that.
I'm just saying, but that's, you know,
Right.
you know,
She's been championing it.
right, so she's been championing that, but that's really what it is, so that ends up falling on us here.
Yeah.
But, again, it's part of our communications plan that, and strategic, it's part of our strategic plan, right? We talk about that all, again, and we always talk about it.
And I
And
love
part
the
of
way
our
it's
audit that we just did.
organized.
So why, we would have a board meeting tonight, whenever this is finished, why wouldn't this go out by Campus?
I'm not saying it can't.
No, I'm just saying, but that would be the best way to get to the people in the
Right.
district.
But one of the issues, I would say, coming from our communications audit, is not communicating to our parents.
Right, it's outside.
It's the other people who are not connected to our district. Right, so that, there's both of those, there's the internal stakeholders and the externals, and parents are those external. But one of the things we heard pretty loud and clear, and, you know, maybe a Brent Richter would say, like, my kids graduated from high school, I don't get any information from the high school anymore, I don't know what's going on in the district, right? As a parent, like, all of a sudden you're not sitting in the bleachers with those same parents anymore, you're, you know, so I don't, so it would be both, I'm not saying we can't send it out Infinite Campus, but then there's other ways, how else would we do it that it's linked, because we also use Infinite Campus for a lot.
Right.
And some people are gonna get this
They
and,
get overdone in
But
it.
it says, here's a recap of the board meeting, right? It's, and people will be like, I don't care, right?
Yeah,
Other
but if
people
they're
will be like,
subscribing
yes.
to it.
but I'm not saying we can't send out Infinite
Right.
Campus, but we'd have to, there has to be another way.
I think
because we
that's
have other people.
subscribing to it is they've asked for it, so they're gonna look for it.
Yeah.
Tyler, can I ask you a question? Let me ask Tyler a question. Is there any way to front load this into the YouTube video? Because you have that place for linking stuff. There's no way to visualize it, but we could always put a link in there that says, if you'd like a recap of this meeting
Oh,
before
sure.
you watch it, click here kind of thing. We could always put a thing on screen, click here too.
Yes, it's very difficult to change it in our system, but you can put like an image of some form in there, if that's what you're asking.
Well, and put in the comments, like you can put a link to,
In the description of.
in the
video.
description, yeah.
Most people, 99% of people don't go there. I'm trying to think of a way to use this where people would get it, that's all. Yeah, of course, the subscription.
Well, website,
No, I know. You just have to advertise it, I think, at first, right? So it goes out in the community link, okay, we've got this new thing, we do the e-class or.
Has to be on the board website where they have you have to put something right where the YouTube videos are, that these are available.
And then I think making like the community organizations aware of it, hey, you can subscribe to this, like have them talk about it at their meetings, show it at a meeting.
But we have to figure out how to do it. But
yeah, anywhere, you can get people.
I'm hearing, again, this meeting.
It's beautiful.
It is
We're-
wonderful.
People are happy with it, so we'll
Yes.
continue to move forward with looking at it.
And do you want somebody to, from the board to read it over before you send it out, or?
I trust them.
I think as long as you're not sticking to he said, she said stuff, just bullet points of what happened,
Right,
you're
that's
good.
for the newspaper.
It doesn't need to
This
be.
is just, these are facts.
I try.
She said with
Right?
an arched
So
eyebrow.
again, sometimes when we think we're being neutral, we're not, right? And
yeah.
so again, I want to, just like anybody else, I have my own biases. Okay. I will work on, I'm not putting one together for this meeting until next week. So.
I think it
Not
could
happening
be
this
a
week.
very educational piece and a very nice thing. And the quick trip thing, I really like it.
I think a quick trip too.
So that tells me I need to change the name.
That's what I was like,
No,
what's
everybody
Quick
loves
Trip
Quick
doing?
Trip.
Well,
Yeah.
take over the world.
I thought that too.
Quick Trip Amazon.
Okay, that's all I really needed. So it sounds like the board wants me to move forward, because that was what I'd asked.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. There are no first policy readings. There are no second policy readings. Are we really at gifts and donations already?
We are.
Gifts and donations.
There's a donation there for $3,500 from Ken and Jackie Smith to the crew for the purchase of a log rolling program.
That sounds awesome.
Like in the pool, log rolling? Wow.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
that is cool.
Unbeknownst to me, my sister's best friend from college did like national log rolling.
rolling?
Yeah, and I'm like, what? I didn't know that?
She could
Oh,
be like a
that's a
guest
thing.
speaker.
So, can you, I have a vision of what this is in my mind, but can you tell me what this is to see if my vision matches up?
Brett, you want
I don't have the details on it, other than I could do a demonstration.
Okay, well, that's what I'm thinking of. So here's the
You said you
question. Is this thing anchored to the bottom of the pool? Is this thing gonna float around in the pool? Is somebody gonna be spinning on a log and then flip their back into the concrete and crack their head open?
Yep, all good questions. I grew up watching some of the world championships up in Hayward, so things I've kind of seen firsthand, and there are safety procedures, but I don't know that we know those details yet.
So I think we need to figure that out. I think we need to know what the liability of this is. I don't wanna look a gift horse in the mouth, but I don't want a $3,500 donation costing us $100,000 in medical bills if somebody gets hurt on this thing.
Understand. You can certainly accept it upon that contingency, and then we can
I mean,
hold
if
the
they want-
check and bring it back under those,
I don't know, have the
Circumstances.
lawyers for the district had a chance to view this and tell us if this is something that,
The insurance company?
the insurance, I mean, had somebody fall in the parking lot on the ice and get hurt, you know,
Yep.
thank you for the gift, but I think before we get too aggressive in accepting it, we need to look at what some of those eventualities are.
Are you making a motion? Sounds like we're making a motion.
Well, I guess the motion would be that we don't accept this until we get some of those questions answered.
Right, so make whatever motion you feel you should make.
I mean,
Is that like a contingent upon the insurance review, something like that?
but I'm not even suggesting that we accept it at this point.
So,
I think we can hold the check and put it on the table is enough for now, and we'll report back, with exploring with the insurance company and with safety procedures and guarantees that children there or whomever will not be hurt, because I totally understand where you're coming from.
And they've done this
mean,
in
they-
other pools?
Yes, I mean, I'm sure,
So they must
I
have
apologize,
something.
I haven't gotten that deep into this. I used to date a girl that was doing this, and I know that
I'm not
the
gonna
early on
pretend to be an
procedures
expert on
are with
lumberjacking,
like
but I've
with
seen this in the
helmets and
lake.
mouth guards and face masks, and they have those kinds of things, and they hold, but I don't know what this is exactly.
Okay.
So
I think we
apologize
need to
for
find that out.
They had it up in Monaco, we went to.
So I would
In the
recommend
lake,
that
I'm
you
guessing.
table it, and then we bring it back next month.
I'll make a motion to table the acceptance of the $3,500 donation from Ken and Jackie Smith to Crew for the purchase of a log rolling program. So I made a motion and seconded by Barb. Is there any further discussion?
I think, I want to make sure we express our gratitude for it. I think it's going to be really great, and obviously we'll just do our due diligence in making sure that it has the safety protocols that we need.
Yeah, having been on the board for, I don't know how many years now, 9 or something like that, that anything that has come about has always been a safety first, always, always safety first. So I would assume, but not, well, we'll find out, right, that this also has that. So. But for sure, we'll find out. Yeah, so let us know next month.
Aye.
Do we have to vote on
Yeah.
tabling it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Table till next month. Thank you, Ken and Jackie Smith.
Yes.
Administrative reports, student services. Oh, and whoever named these, BOE, PS, CI, HS, SS, MS, thank you.
Good job.
Excellent job. Student services.
Yeah, so I've kept the board updated on the process of the self-assessment that we've gone through for the entire school year. So I wanted to provide just kind of a final report at the conclusion of this cycle. So at the beginning of the school year, I reported to you that 80% of our evaluation paperwork and 35% of our IEP paperwork were compliant based on the assessments that were completed for the self-assessment. And this very final step of the self-assessment was for an individual from the Department of Public Instruction to come and do a desk audit, which was completed in June. And that was from a brand new pool of IEPs, so IEPs that were completed from January through April. So that auditor used those same indicators that we had been working on for the school year. And the result of the audit was 100% compliance for the evaluation paperwork and the IEP paperwork. The special ed team quickly adapted to meet these requirements and follow through with those compliance measures. We look forward into the next year to continuing that level of compliance and paperwork and also focusing on best practices in the area of implementation. And we'll be using the implementation indicators that are also brought forth by DPI. I also wanted, just so that the board knows, that we had a staff member step down from their role as a CPI instructor. So I completed the training to be an instructor to fill that vacancy. So I completed one training in July, and then we have another one set up for this week. So I will be able to co-train with our other in-house trainer, Gordy Beyer.
So with CPI being Crisis Prevention Institute, correct? Okay. So could you talk about why 35% was only approved? The number seems very low.
Yes, it did seem very low. It was surprising to me as well. So there were, I believe there are 18 indicators in the IEP paperwork that we needed to assess, and that was a team at the beginning of the school year from all of the different buildings that got together to do that work. It was for quite a few reasons, to be honest with you. I do have a breakdown of what those 18 measures were and which ones we weren't doing so well on, if that's something that you would like to see.
So I guess what I want is more of, we're doing this, we got assessed, and now we know what to do, and so the compliance will go way up, right?
Which it has.
Right, yeah, I understand that, but it's, we just weren't doing what we were supposed to be doing, and now we know what we're supposed to be doing, and so it shouldn't be a problem in the future.
Correct. And so some of the things, like, I'll give you one as an example. So students with disabilities who have IEPs have what's called specially designed instruction. Specially designed instruction is what really kind of, I think, sets special education apart from everything else. So one of the indicators talked about how that needed to be very clearly defined in the paperwork. And and it had like the frequency, the amount of minutes that were being provided, and the environment that it was being provided in. That was something that was not clear in our paperwork before going through the self-assessment. So that's something that we have improved on drastically.
So we were doing the work and that kind of stuff, we just weren't putting it into the paperwork.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the IEP is a very complex document.
Oh my God, yes.
And as a parent who had a child with a fairly complex IEP, I completely understand how, I understand the need for it to be standardized and these strict regulations as to how things need to go into the document. There's a lot of those rules that are in there for good reason, and they're super complicated documents.
Okay, any other questions, or?
Well, thanks for stepping up as a role in the crisis prevention training too. Thank you.
It was great to have our first training a couple of weeks ago.
Lodi Primary School,
So just a couple things. Summer school was, I just think outstanding. We, finished our second session of that. Just so many great activities and things that were continuing from last year, but just other, new initiatives this year. One of the big ones was exploring the community, and I kind of think that was a revived program, but just pretty amazing and just great connections to our strategic plan and the community partnerships that are there. Also just want to do a shout out to the different organizations that donated the lunches. Last year we had lunches provided for all the students, and so for some families that was, a huge benefit of coming to summer school, and so local organizations throughout Lodi helped volunteer to fill that void, and so I would say there's about 80 lunches that they were making, 80 to 100 lunches they were making for students, so that was outstanding. And then at the primary school, we have been doing some more professional learning. August 2nd, we had a math retreat, so we had individuals from each of the grade levels and just diving into our everyday math and making sure that we have consistency as far as our scope and sequence and the components that we're implementing with everyday math. So just kind of got energized about that. On Wednesday, we had the book study, Meaningful Phonics and Word Study, is by Wiley Blevins, who is the author of Phonics to Reading, our curriculum program. And it just helps teachers give a couple more helpful hints as far as how to implement phonics instruction and tied to the science of reading and all that. And then Wednesday and Thursday, our PBIS team is going to be connecting, and we're going to be looking at some just reviewing, just our common practices as far as our expected behaviors, as well as creating some videos to help support students with what are the expected behaviors, when you're in the bathroom and the lunchroom, cafeteria, and all of that. So, just energizing through those. So, and then also August 10th, I'm meeting with individuals for Heritage Park. We're going to be using the final funds that we had from the PTO on our Strive with Pride, and we are going to be determining that last purchase to finish it off to hopefully implement this fall.
Exciting.
Yes, very exciting.
it's not your job to watch the playground all summer, but you see kids out there all summer, right, using that?
Outstanding,
Yeah,
yes.
great.
Absolutely, so,
It's a community job.
Great
yeah,
program.
it's wonderful.
Middle school,
Yeah, good evening, board. The first thing I want to do on my board report is the most important thing that I do is welcome the new people to our district. So Seth Landolt is coming to us from Texas. Last year we had someone come from California, so the Lodi Middle School is, we're drawn from all over the U.S. nowadays. It actually is funny because I called Seth this summer to kind of check in. He's like, I'm driving to my house in Wisconsin right now, so this is
He is
my
coming.
family. So we want to welcome him. Christian Fries is a recent graduate of UW-Madison, and he is from Illinois. Sarah Gleiss is an 8th grade math, language arts, and support teacher, and she actually lives in Lodi and has been here for a few years, and I'm not borrowing, I stole her from our LMC assistant at the high school to fill our position, which coincidentally, she lives 2 doors down the road, so Seth lives all the way across the country, but then I gotta hire someone a little closer. Elise Kearney is joining our staff, taking over for Jenna Kramer as instructional coach, and I want to welcome Hunter Alds back. He taught last semester, the second semester of last year, and our choir teacher, and we're super glad that he's back to fill that position permanently. This year we will be piloting a new math program. So last year we looked at several different math programs, visited several different schools, and we decided that this year we're going to pilot one of those programs for a full year, and that program is called Ready Math. We had a training in July, and our staff members were there. We had about a 3-hour training, and really working around our common vision, building common classroom routines, and trying to really build a robust and consistent and highly reliable math program 6 through 8. So we're gonna try that program, and we're gonna pilot, like I said, we're gonna pilot that for the entire year, and if we like that program, that'd be something we would commit to long-term. I want to thank Dawn Collins. So Stars of the Show is an event that Dawn Collins organizes for the fair. It's at the Lodi Agricultural Fair for many of our STAR students. She partners with 4-H and other FFA students in our area to help our STAR students show poultry, rabbits, swine, sheep, dairy, and beef in a safe and nurturing event. And then we had a special former alumni, not former alumni, but alumni, Noah Deans was our host of that, and that was just an amazing event at the Lodi Fair. And I also want to just let everyone know our open house is on Tuesday, August 30th. I think there's been some miscommunication about that, but it is on Tuesday, August 30th. We're looking forward to welcome families back into our building. We're looking forward to just get people back, right? That's what our school's about, and we're just excited to have our students back, our staff back in the building, and get our parents in the building to just start building those relationships for this year.
Does the Ready Math, does it have any correlation to iReady?
It does, yep. It would be so iReady is made by a company called Curriculum and Associates, and yeah, Ready Math would be aligned with that resource, and that would be one of the tools that we'll use as a part of that process.
Cool. High school.
All right, thanks, Adam. First of all, we had our annual summer Devil's Lake Leadership Retreat that took place on Wednesday, July 28th, and 35 students were able to attend from 9th through 12th grade. And you can see kind of the agenda for the day that's on my report. I wanted to thank the Leadership Council advisors Mason Kittleson and Jim McKellar. Also from LCAT, Paula Enger and Brian Bilsey were able to attend. And finally, Jason Marshall was able to attend. I was unable to attend, I was on vacation. But they said it was a great day. Kids did an awesome job. So gave them an opportunity to learn a little bit more about Leadership Council and go through some activities up at Devil's Lake. Next thing, every year the Golf Coaches Association of Wisconsin puts together academic all-state honorees, and this year we had 4 golfers that met their criteria. So former seniors Bailey Clark and Haley Taney were able to make academic all-state as far as golf, and then Cogan Barron and Walter Beld, so congratulations, Mom, were able to make all-state. And then as a team, they also look at GPAs for all the teams as far as them participating in varsity events. So Haley Taney, Bailey Clark, Cogan Barron, Walter Beld, and Brian Meitzner, their team made academic all-state honors. So that was great. And I'm glad that the Golf Coaches Association does that every year and honors those students. Just like Derek was able to do, I want to introduce some of our new staff. So Andy Heimerman is our new ELA teacher. He comes from Green Bay, so you can read a little bit about him and some of his interests. Josie Kirkpatrick, who was approved a while ago. She's our new school counselor, and she comes from the Kenosha area, lives in DeForest, and she recently had a baby, so she walked away from counseling for a year, and she was looking for a position close to DeForest, and I'm glad that we found her. So we're looking forward to her starting this year. Lise Kearney was brought up, so she's transitioning into a new position, and that gave Andy Heimerman an opportunity to come into our school. But Elise, again, is going to be our 6-12 instructional coach, so working both at the middle school and high school. And then Cody Endress, who has been a special ed teacher over at OSC, is going to be transitioning to the high school this year because of some of our needs. So we're looking forward to Cody coming over. And it's nice to have our coach, some of our varsity coaches in the building. And as you know, Cody's been our wrestling coach for a few years, so it's great to have him right in our building this year.
So he's going to be doing special ed?
Yes, he'll be doing special ed. Link Crew, so for some of maybe our new school board members, Link Crew is an opportunity for our freshmen to start a day early. Our 10th through 12th graders start on the 2nd, and our freshmen get to start on September 1st. And we have Link Crew leaders that are made up of 11th and 12th graders that basically get them ready for high school. So students have an opportunity to go through lots of different games and activities, but they also have an opportunity to walk through their schedule, meet some of the freshman teachers, and acclimate them to the high school, get them used to what their lockers look like before the entire school is there. Our link crew leaders over the last few years have been Carrie Kurska and Michael Radloff, so they put in a ton of time getting their link crew leaders ready. They put a ton of time in a couple days before school starts and then that day. And then throughout the school year, there are link crew activities that we'd like to do more of this coming year. We backed away a little bit, but we'd like to get our link crew leaders involved even more during the school year. This summer, one event that is looked forward to by our FFA is the Wisconsin FFA Convention. So that happened from June 13th to the 16th. We had 15 high school and middle school students that were able to go with Mr. Anderson. Some of the highlights, our Lodi FFA received Pride Award for membership growth. Audrey Jesse and Riley Schneider, who were recent graduates, received their state FFA degrees on stage, and Audrey received a 3-star leader award on stage. And then the Lodi FFA was recognized as a gold-rated national chapter on stage and will be competing in this award category at the national convention. So that's pretty impressive. Mr. Anderson wanted to make sure that we publicly thanked Heidi Endress, who has very much been involved in FFA and lots of other things in our school, for helping chaperone at the convention and really helping some of our younger students, especially some of our middle schoolers, during the convention. A couple other things, senior information. Last year, our guidance counselor at the time and Mr. Lemke were able to put together a folder for our seniors. Becoming a senior is very exciting, but it's a little bit stressful because there's a lot of changes that are going to be taking place, and especially if you're a parent that has not had a senior. So there's lots of things that they have to think about as far as the next stages in their life. So they put together a folder where there are links that seniors plus parents can get information. The best way to do it is call the counseling department and ask questions, or call the office. But there are links here, not here in the admin report, but will be available to parents so they can get information when they need it. And then I listed some of the upcoming events. We don't really have an open house, but we do have a 9th grade parent orientation night, which is going to happen August 31st. It's a great opportunity for our parents to walk through their students' schedules and learn a little bit about the high school. And then finally, we have started football so far as sports. And then tomorrow, tennis, girls tennis will be starting, and swimming, and you can see all the other sports and when they start. When the football team walks out on the practice field, you feel like school's about to start. You know it's about to start. And that makes it pretty exciting. In fact, our first football game is the 19th. It'll be home. So we're very excited to get that going, because we know a Friday night football game is kind of a community event, so it brings a lot of people to our school. So.
Is that senior folder, is that a new thing?
It was started last year.
Okay, I was saying, that sounds great.
Yeah, so, nope, I really appreciate them doing that.
Does sound great. I wish I would have saw that last year.
Well, maybe we need to communicate it better. Which I would agree, we need to communicate it better.
Older end.
My daughter did it all on her own, so I guess I didn't need to see it because she took care of all that
It's a
stuff.
responsible
However.
young lady.
Yeah, exactly.
Just subscribe to it.
Room shot. Curriculum and instruction.
So a number of our staff, our new teachers specifically, will start with us on August 22nd, and that will kick off a number of days where some of them will have our new staff back, and some of them will have all of our staff back, and those are days where students aren't with us yet, but we're starting to get ready. We're already getting ready for the school year, but we really dive deep on those days. We refer to that as the pre-session. So we have a very detailed pre-session schedule, and that's linked there for you to take a look at and see all the activities that we participate in as we're gearing up for the start of the school year.
Is Chuck doing the bus tour?
We're hoping that Chuck will be able to do, yep.
Yes.
Just got the thumbs up. Yes, he is. So we do a lot of fun things with our new teachers, and part of that is we not only want them to get the information that they need related to curriculum and how to work the copy machine, all of those things, but we want them to get to know the community. We want them to really enjoy being here. We want them to build relationships with each other, because that ultimately is what helps them stay in our district. So we have lunch together, we do some team building activities, we take them for a tour of the various municipalities that they're going to be serving and having students from. We try to make it a fun opportunity for them to really love the school district and the community the way we do. Next, every school year, per the state, we have to post on our district website our district interim or benchmark assessment calendar and the state assessment calendar. We combine those into one document, and that's posted on the curriculum section of the website. So that's that right there linked for you to see the various assessments that we'll be giving out this school year. Then ongoing professional development, we have a number of things that have been happening this summer, and either I've reported out on them or the principals have in their board report. Here's one for the elementary school in OSC, and this is 3rd through 5th grade phonics / word study professional development. This is similar to professional development that was given to the primary school staff last year, and this is the 3-5 staff's opportunity. So we actually had a Zoom session with Dr. Wiley Blevins in this room, and a number of teacher leaders from both OSC and the elementary school participated. We also had a literacy specialist from CISA 5 who was here working with us and took us through a debriefing session where staff were able to coordinate on what they learned and coordinate on possible next steps for the 3-5 level related to this work. So we took some valuable notes. We're going to leverage those notes for Eric, the new principal, as we move forward and leverage those in staff meetings to make decisions for the upcoming school year and beyond. And then for math, that's something that Mr. Bertzborn already spoke about, so I'll cut mine short.
Thank you. LCAT?
So LCAT, actually, we had National Night Out on August 2nd. It was again in Haberman Park. It's the 8th annual National Night Out. And attendees got a chance to gather in the community an alcohol-free environment. So the Lodi EMS was present, introduced their Narcan Rescue Unit program in partnership with LCAT and the Prevention and Response Columbia County team. These rescue kits will be provided to people who may be in need of one. Narcan is to reverse a narcotic overdose. The event had music, food, petting zoo, booths with community and county information, and many other activities. It was well attended. It was fun again. It was a nice night, and there were a lot of people. So Brian is in the process of taking a course to become Prime for Life instructor. It might already be done. Process will take approximately 40 hours to complete. Prime for Life is an evidence-based program designed to share information on how youth can make good choices regarding alcohol and marijuana. LCAT had a table at the school registration. The FACT group was there. Students and parents could have their questions answered. I saw people going up to it because I was there. So LCAT also helped the high school leadership group, which the high school was talking about, Joe was talking about. Their group went up to Devil's Lake and completed their program together. And as part of the Lodi Pride campaign, LCAT will be handing out Lodi Pride flags at the Susie the Duck Days parade on August 13th. So anyway, working to also get Lodi Pride flags hung in the different around the city. So anyway, I'm reading off of something that was to come and it now happened, so sorry.
Change on the fly.
Huh?
Changing it on the fly.
Well, yeah.
Thank you. District Administrator report.
Yeah, so our food service department put together this nice book, a review of some of the things they did last year. So I'm just going to pass it down. You can page through. Mr. Jelnick graces our cover.
Yeah, that was great.
But just give you a chance to kind of look at some of the great things that happened with our food service provider last year. I just want to make the board aware that we've applied for a digital mapping grant through the Department of Justice, which would pay for digital mapping of our buildings, which would be very useful to law enforcement. The plan is that should cover the total cost of that. So thanks to Brent and Neil Ribel for their work on putting that together. As Dr. Carl's talked about, we have new staff returning on August 22nd. All staff are back on August 25th, and that's when we'll do our staff breakfast, and the board members are all welcome and encouraged to attend. One of the things that I want to point out, we talked about the bus tour that we do. We work really hard to make this a great moment for our new staff when they come here. And one of the people that help, or one of the groups that help us with that is Associated Bank. Associated Bank puts on or takes our group out all the new staff every year out to Fitz's on the lake. So there's no better, like you come to Lodi and you get to go sit out in the lake and they buy you dinner, or lunch, I should say. Every year, the Associate Bank has done that. It's been a great thing for them, for us. They have no strings attached. They don't tell them anything, they don't do anything. They just, thank you for coming to the community and welcome to Lodi. So it's a great thing for the bank to do. A reminder, we have board professional development. Thanks again for everybody, for the board participating this past week. And then we have it next Tuesday, August 16th. You should be looking for some things from
Terry did her part, I'm still working on mine.
and Adam.
I did my part.
And I will also be sending things from Drew later this week, some clarifying responsibilities that he just wants you to review, not do anything, but just review and be ready to discuss when you come back. And then, again, we'll start the same way with kind of food and conversation about 5:30 with our meeting starting next. Board has their thank you card. And then the Grow Cooperative is taking their steps forward. Their Facebook post is going out today or tomorrow. Just reminding people that the first $10,000 scholarships for people who are in the School of Education will be given out here in the next month or so. So the first round of scholarship application closes August 15th at midnight. So check our Facebook page for details on that. That is all.
Tyre, so board president report, Tyre really does do a lot of stuff.
They do.
That pig roast was something else.
It was.
That was something else.
That's something else. Hope to do that again. So I'd like to take a minute to thank Vince especially, but everyone who served on the committee for hiring our LES OSC principal, Eric Schuneman. Yay, can't believe we got that done that quick, and everybody who participated, it's a lot of work. And I only had to do a tiny part, you had to do a massive amount of work, so thank you very much for pulling that off so quickly.
It's an important position.
Yeah, but we'll hit the ground running now. And that is all I wanted to thank, so. Next, we have our individual reports, CISA 5.
I finally got to a meeting, and I've been in contact, but I finally got to meet Jeremy and Michelle. They're super nice, everybody's very welcoming, and one thing that they talked about, and I don't know if we use this, I Spy screening, but it's a really in-depth, and it can find things wrong with kids' eyes, and I'm gonna actually probably talk to Jeremy on Wednesday, because he actually was trying to make a deal, almost like negotiating, if he can get it offered to schools for like a limited time to see if they like it, and then possibly purchase it. But, so.
We use something different.
Okay.
Because I shared that
'Cause I was-
information with Jean, and we are trying to look up what we use.
Okay, that
But
was
we
my
have something that we
Okay,
use.
okay. And then he said to keep an eye out, because they've been talking about this, and it's something that's gonna be kind of controversial of people's rights, but then also safety, is they have this, some big school in, I think Minnesota tried it because they had the money to do it, but you basically set up like a perimeter around your school, and you can basically say, okay, find all these kind of pens in the school, and it finds every single, whatever item you pick. So, yeah, so he was saying, just keep your eye open for it, or keep listening, because it's probably gonna come about, but obviously it's like, oh, so now we can find where there's a gun or whatever, but then you're like, that can be dangerous technology, obviously, so he just said to kinda.
Like a little bot, what is it?
He didn't really have a ton, but he just said, I know there's something that you set, like a perimeter around a building, and you type in. No, it's like a company that would come in, and they can do that, and then it's the technology that they say, okay, whatever you wanna find, and they would say, assign an item, and then in that perimeter it would find wherever every one of those items is. So, obviously, that's what they were saying, though, is some people are like, well, that's kind of against your rights. But then anything with technology, I feel
Do
like
they have a name or something?
I don't even know if he did say the name.
Because that doesn't sound like something that's possible.
I guess he'll bring it up at our next superintendent meeting.
Based on the technology that's out there.
But no, I was excited, and they obviously have so many things to offer. I'm
Right.
excited to get really in there and keep updating, and hopefully we can even use their resources more. I know we already use them, but yeah, so.
Cool,
Yeah.
great.
We actually Prevent Blindness of Wisconsin, which uses evidence-based practices training
Prevent
program for vision
blindness?
screening.
Okay,
Prevent Blindness of Wisconsin.
okay. Thank you.
There is no co-curricular report this month. OSC,
Nope, we didn't meet.
OSC report. Board committee reports, contract review.
Everything we talked about, you guys got to hear about and talk about also.
And now we get the minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yep, those are minutes. They're there. So we're gonna have the minutes from all the committees right here.
They're the draft minutes.
The draft minutes, no, of course, of
minutes,
course.
right.
But it's
Okay.
beautiful, I love it.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Curriculum,
We didn't meet, we meet next week.
facility and finance.
We didn't meet.
Really? We always meet. We didn't meet? Sorry.
We didn't, did we?
Nope. Okay. Seems weird because we always meet.
Remember.
And policy.
Blur. It's a
Did
blur.
not meet.
I mean, that's what, yeah, I figured. Any future meeting agenda items? One idea that comes to mind is as part of our outreach and communication, we have these wonderful reports from principals that are just beautiful. Could we use those as communication things? Not for us. I mean, they are for us, thank you. They're great, but to a bigger audience.
So one of the discussions
And
that
again,
was.
we won't discuss it, it's just
Well,
something
one
to
of the
think about.
discussions that happened at the communications audit, so it's a discussion that at some point we should have the board meeting, was putting those back to the front of the board meeting.
Yes.
Right.
When people are, because a lot of times people will tune in for a while and then they
Gone.
are gone. So
Right.
the reports come and they tune out. That is an opportunity. Obviously, there would be something that we would link to that document that I put together,
Right.
That would be linked right into there, but, right, it's, yeah, so how do we use them?
To their advantage, yeah, then there's also, in the communication plan, there was, we need newsletters that are coordinated and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and so could these reports be those newsletters, or those newsletters be our reports, right? So that is less work.
So Adam, a lot of the information that I put in my board report, I put in my bulletin that I send home.
Right.
So a lot of that information is there already, and I use it in both places.
Yeah.
So that's communicated once a month for a Blue Devil bulletin.
Right.
So I don't know if you'd have to send out the board report separately because it's there anyways, ways and others.
Right, I'm just trying to say, if you do one of those, and we got it, and the community got it, and the parents got it, and the students got it, and it was one thing, that would be fine with us. I mean, I saw all the high school ones, because my daughter was there, but now she's not, so I won't see them anymore.
Sure.
So, that'd be a way to do it, and I would never see the primary, right? Because I don't have a kid in primary, so, I mean, I see it through here. Just seems like that would be a simpler way to kill some multiple birds. We are not going back into closed session, so
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting because
that's what I'm
it's
looking
funny.
for.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Barb and a second by Terry. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned.